My uncle
Wow.
Eala, amazing, and I felt like a princess.
On
On
April
April
20th, 2026, inside the Cibeles Palace in Madrid, the top-ranked tennis star on the planet received what many call the Oscars of sport, then left the stage trembling, emotional, struggling to speak clearly. That player was Aryna Sabalenka. She had just claimed the Laureus World Sportswoman of the Year honor. Over the entire previous season, she had been utterly dominant. By every possible metric, she defined the evening. Yet by the following morning, attention was no longer hers alone. A 20-year-old attendee, without a nomination, without a trophy at her seat, had walked that same red carpet wearing a dress flown in from Manila. It felt flawless. A celebration of elite sport. Her first major red carpet moment. And she treated it like her moment to shine. Just days before and within hours, 6 fellow WTA players had filled her comments with reactions. Tennis Channel USA aired a separate segment focused only on her entrance. Not the ceremony, not the champion, only her walk. Even the WTA's official platforms boosted her photos, world number 44, unlisted, unawarded, yet somehow central to the conversation in the room. So what unfolded at Cibeles Palace that Monday evening? And how did one of the most elite red carpets in global sport partly belong to someone whose name was never announced? The Laureus World Sports Awards are not centered on tennis. They represent the highest level of multi-sport recognition. A space where Simone Biles, Nadia Casey, Lamine Yamal, Lando Norris, and Rory McIlroy all share the same spotlight. Tennis only reaches that stage when an athlete delivers something the entire sporting world recognizes. In 2026, that athlete was Sabalenka. 4 titles during 2025, including the US Open, finishing as year-end number 1 across the full 52-week cycle, and becoming just the 5th WTA player ever to earn that award. The spotlight was hers. IA was simply present as a guest. She had 1 week to choose her outfit. That choice, made in about 7 days and carried out across 2 continents, is where this story truly starts. Here is the competitive reality IA stepped into that night. She sits at world number 44. She has yet to secure a WTA title. She arrived in Madrid unseeded, meaning in round 2 she faces Elise Mertens, a seeded opponent who defeated her in their previous meeting. The ranking system, built on a rolling 52-week structure, has not yet reflected her 2026 performances. According to the latest WTA race standings, she stands 10th inside the top 10, even while officially listed at 44th. The distance between those figures is the clearest proof that who she is and what the rankings display are not aligned. This is not a question of ability. It is a flaw in how the system measures performance. And it is important to recognize the Sabalenka perspective here. Without question, Sabalenka's presence at Los was fully deserved. She delivered the most commanding season in women's tennis in 2025, and this honor represented the sport's highest acknowledgement of that achievement. There is no rivalry between these 2 players. The contrast exists within how the night unfolded. The official narrative and the viral narrative moved on separate paths. Marble Nadal had stated it clearly just 1 day before the event. Speaking as deputy general manager of the Rafa Nadal Academy, where Eala has trained since age 13, Marble told Sportska, "What she's doing is remarkable. It's incredible to witness the support she receives worldwide. She inspires so many boys and girls in the Philippines. She's an exceptional person, very grounded." She said that before the gown arrived, before the carpet appearance, before everything that came next. It begins with a phone call. Roughly a week ahead of the Laureus ceremony, IA contacted her uncle Rhett Eala in the Philippines. Rhett is a recognized Filipino designer, not a small-scale label, not a beginner. "I'll wear what's known as the Filipinana, a traditional Filipino formal outfit." Ella told him she wanted to step onto the carpet in a Filipinana. She had carried that vision for years. She later shared in her press conference, "I always imagined that if I ever walked a red carpet, I would wear a Filipinana." This was not a styling decision driven by branding. It was a niece reaching out to her uncle about a personal dream she had long before public attention. Rhett created the gown. He selected the materials. He oversaw its construction and arranged international delivery, Manila to Madrid within days. What arrived was a complete beige chiffon dress featuring a pleated tube design, paired with a cropped pina fabric bolero with butterfly sleeves. The defining structural feature of the bolero is the barro, a key element of the Philippine national formal attire. The pina textile is not decorative. It is crafted from fibers of pineapple leaves, one of the most labor-intensive natural fabrics in the world, requiring thousands of individual fiber extractions for each meter, and produced only in the Philippines. It cannot be obtained elsewhere. Every strand in that bolero is inherently and exclusively Filipino. It cannot be reproduced in any other place by any other maker. She specifically selected the pina fabric for the bolero top. Rhett confirmed this in a Metro-style exclusive interview on April 21, 2026. At a ceremony attended by athletes from across the globe, Eala was the only individual wearing the traditional heritage attire of her nation. Everyone else chose designer fashion. Eala represented the Philippines. What followed across social platforms was not typical fan engagement. It became a tour-level moment. 6 current WTA players, not media, not analysts, not casual followers, paused during tournament week to comment on a single Instagram post. Coco Gauff, the 2023 U.S. Open champion, currently ranked 4th globally, wrote one word, beautiful. Victoria Mbako, one of 2025's breakout talents, wrote ridiculous, in the only tone where it signals praise. Katie Boulter, Britain's #1, wrote, absolutely stunning. Eva Lee commented, just passed away by this beauty. Eva Jovic added, OMG. Camila Osorio, Colombia's top-ranked player, left a single word in Spanish, hermosa, meaning beautiful. That comment section is not a crowd reaction. It is a clear record of how Eala's peers respond to her cultural statement. These are ranked athletes reacting to another ranked player's post during an active competition week. The engagement is intentional. It requires stopping, looking, pausing, and recognizing something meaningful to say. No other WTA athlete at the Laureus ceremony triggered that kind of reaction. Tennis Channel, a US-based broadcaster focused primarily on Sabalenka, Djokovic, and the Grand Slams, released a fully separate segment titled Alexandra Eala on walking the glorious red carpet. Not a reused clip from the main broadcast, not a side feature, but a standalone segment centered on a guest. The WTA's official social platforms also highlighted Eala's appearance independently, placing her image within the same feed as the award recipients. Those who followed since the Australian Open already understood what broader audiences struggled to define. The rankings fail to reflect what is truly unfolding. That evening in Madrid simply offered the clearest evidence yet that the numbers and the reality exist on entirely different timelines. Then comes the data point that makes the situation impossible to ignore. Based on the latest WTA race standings, the race to the WTA Finals, which resets annually and tracks only current season results at major tournaments, Eala holds 10th place with 772 points. Officially ranked 44th in the world, she is collecting race points at the level of a top 10 competitor. The standard ranking operates on a rolling 52-week system. When Eala reached the Miami Open semifinal in 2025, she earned a significant number of points. When she reached the round of 16 in 2026 with a strong showing, she dropped 16 positions, not due to decline, but because her previous results expired at the same time. The ranking system had not yet adjusted to her current level. The race already had. The individual who co-hosted the Laureus ceremony that Monday night, whose name headlined the event and who walked the same carpet hours before Eala, had already publicly described exactly the kind of player she is. With 24 Grand Slam titles and 5 Laureus Awards across a career that spans generations, Novak Djokovic addressed the situation on January 23, 2026, during an Australian Open press conference. He was asked about overcrowding, not specifically about Eala. But the issue had already grown beyond scheduling concerns. Her matches were drawing overwhelming crowds at one of the sport's largest events. He said, she has been the biggest ever tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a huge interest. Having too much crowd is a very good problem. He called it a very good problem, meaning the system itself had to adapt around her presence. Walkways filled, courts unable to contain the demand. Djokovic, widely considered the greatest, identifying a 20-year-old's audience pull as a logistical issue significant enough to address publicly without being prompted. 3 months later, he co-hosted the same ceremony where she arrived wearing her uncle's design and generated attention comparable to his role as host. She took a selfie with him and Eileen Gu. She captioned it sandwiched between greatness. His name led the event. Hers dominated the conversations. What the Laureus night revealed is that this story extends far beyond a single appearance. Eala is currently competing at the Mutua Madrid Open, where her second-round match against Mertens is scheduled for April 24th. Her path presents a possible route into the quarterfinals. And at that stage in a WTA 1000 event in Madrid, the draw could include Sabalenka, the three-time defending champion pursuing a historic fourth straight title in the city. The champion and the guest who shared the carpet on Monday may soon meet on court before the week ends. After Madrid comes Rome, the Internazionale BNP Paribas from May 5th through 18th. Eala has no points to defend there. Every result adds forward momentum. Each victory elevates her standing. The same ranking structure that penalized her in Miami due to expiring points now resets in her favor. Then comes Roland Garros from May 26th to June 8th. Again, no points to defend on the clay in Paris. If Madrid and Rome produce deep runs, the seeding calculation could position her inside the top 35 before the draw is finalized. And Roland Garros, with its strong Filipino and Asian diaspora presence in Paris, its crowd energy and its history of amplifying narratives beyond the scoreboard, becomes the stage where the story that began at Sibylli's Palace finds its continuation. This trajectory has always been building. The race standings pointed toward a defining clay season. What the Laureus night accomplished was presenting it visually, placing it on the most visible stage in global sport so that when the wins arrive, the narrative is already understood. The underlying reality, however, remains demanding. Yaya enters the Mertens match unseeded. Mertens holds the 19th seed. Their only previous meeting ended in Mertens' favor. Without the protection of seeding, every round requires defeating higher-ranked opposition, something the system suggests should not happen, even as the race standings indicate she has been doing exactly that all season. But that does not make any single match easier. The Pina fabric carries no weight on clay. The Instagram comments cannot hold a serve. The Djokovic statement does not win a return, and Stuttgart, where Aya fell in the opening round to Leylah Fernandez 1-6, 4-6 3 weeks ago, is proof that race standings show accumulated performance, not promised results. The ranking system has not adjusted yet because it depends on verified outcomes, and verified outcomes come only from winning on the toughest days. There is no easing this reality. Eala is ranked 44 because the system records what it records. She stands 10th in the race because she has defeated stronger opponents at bigger stages than a 44-ranked player is expected to. Both truths exist at once. And the Mertens match on April 24th is where that tension is decided. Not by a ceremony, not by a dress, but by an hour on high-altitude red clay. She explained it herself the morning after the red carpet, after already securing her opening round win in 1 hour and 31 minutes. I always dreamed that if I ever walked a red carpet, I would wear a Filipinana. My uncle is a recognized designer in the Philippines, so we contacted him. I wanted this. He's a known designer, so we reached out and within days it was sent. He delivered and I felt like a princess. She said it during a post-match press conference. Not during a speech, not under lights, simply a player answering routine questions about clay tennis, then quietly adding that she felt like a princess. The gown is gone. The racket remains. The dream is recorded. Think back to when Novak Djokovic stood in Melbourne in January and described a 20-year-old's crowd impact as a very good problem, then months later hosted the event where she arrived and became a secondary headline at a night centered on the sport's reigning #1. Think about the uncle in Manila sourcing Pina fibers in days, sending a national outfit across continents, designing a piece that appeared on the most photographed carpet in global sport. Think about 6 WTA players across different nations and rankings pausing their tournament schedules to write beautiful, ridiculous, absolutely stunning, and just passed away by this beauty under the same post. And then consider Aryna Sabalenka, the most composed and dominant figure in women's tennis, standing among the greatest athletes in the world and saying, "I'm shaking right now. I have goosebumps." That is what goes off really means. Not conflict, not rivalry. The most vulnerable emotional moment of Sabalenka's career. A champion so overwhelmed by the presence of legends that she could barely stay steady. She trembled on that stage. She earned every second of it. And at that exact moment, while Sabalenka was speaking, the comment section beneath a Pina gown was filling with voices from across the women's tour. That is what stealing the red carpet means. Not taking anything from Sabalenka, but adding something to the night. A world number 44, sitting 10th in the race, with no nomination, no seat at the table, arriving at the Oscars of sport in a handmade vision from her uncle and leaving behind something no award can measure. A moment that showed an entire nation walking beside her. She did not enter Sibily's palace to receive. What she gave her country that night, in front of the greatest athletes alive, could not be contained in a trophy. With no points to defend at Roland Garros and currently holding 10th in the WTA race, can she use the clay season to return to the top 30? And if she reaches the quarterfinals in Paris, does she become the most discussed player at the French Open regardless of who lifts the trophy? Those who have followed from before the gown arrived, before the comments surged, before Tennis Channel created a standalone feature on a non-nominated guest, already recognized what the race standings revealed while the rankings told a different story. The clay season has only begun, and the next phase, Mertens, then Rome, then Paris, is where what you already understand becomes confirmed through results. Subscribe so you are already here when it happens.